This is the nearly famous Very Young Show.
As hour 2 is on the air from our Fortress of Civility. And again, the mantra today, I know it's Monday, I know it's tough on everybody. You're getting up, you're driving to work. There's no school for most people, so you're driving to work for yet another day. Just remember what we said. The private sector is fine. The private sector is fine. Private sector is doing fine. On that note, let me introduce, since the private sector is doing so well, our good friend, United States Congressman Jeff Flake, has joined us in the studios this morning, and he's also running for John Kyle's seat. John Kyle is retiring and is going to leave the U.S. Senate, so you're hot on the trail for that. But before we go any further, were you aware of the fact how good the U.S. economy was actually doing?
That seemed to be news to me and everybody else out there. The private sector is doing just fine.
It's just fine.
That reminds me, George Will tells of an incident that is related in President Obama's book, one of his books, where he talks about his first job out of college. And he goes and sits down at his carrel or office or whatever in the private sector. And he describes sitting there and then saying or thinking to himself, "I'm behind enemy lines," and that's a perfect, I think, metaphor for this presidency, where you view the private sector as somehow the enemy of the public sector, and that the public sector is all kindness and virtue, and the private sector is anything but. But then to say, well, the private sector is doing just fine. Let's worry about more firefighters or teachers, whatever else.
Yeah. As long as we're on this, before we get off into Arizona politics and congressional issues and things along those lines, the president has not had a great last couple of weeks, 10, 15 days. So many things have backfired. Like, he says this private sector is doing fine. Of course, Mitt Romney's on it, but just right on cue, Standard & Poor's steps in and says, well, we're still keeping the U.S. credit rating at a diminished AA+ when it was AAA++ or whatever it was. So,
and Bill Clinton has done his merry, digging along the way.
That's been the killer.
That's been the killer.
How much of a killer do you think it is? I mean, is Obama on the ropes right now?
Well, when his most effective surrogate, who is Bill Clinton, comes out and said, hey, Bain, Romney did a great job there, basically is what he's saying, and get off of that kick. That just makes it very, very
And by the
difficult.
way, we can't afford to raise taxes right now. It's a bad idea.
So. You got to extend them into the new year. However you want to walk back that statement afterwards, it's out there. It's part of, you've got the soundbite for ads and everything else. And so it has been a tough week.
And then over the weekend, of all things, Don Rickles. And I've always loved Don Rickles. Don Rickles comes out. He's got all the Hollywood elite, all the showbiz people out there who love the president of the United States, and even had them chuckling. Do you hear the joke? Babinski Rickles gets out there and says, oh, yeah, we had, Obama came over, but the mop broke. And it's,
oh, no.
Oh, yeah. This is classic Don Rickles. And the laughter starts rippling out, and the Hollywood elite sitting there laughing at it. So, something is clearly not the way it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, this is different. There's a record now, and he has to defend that record, and he's having a tough time.
Yeah. Well, now how are you doing? Because I don't like to play favorites on the show. You know me, but you got that.
Please do.
You got that Will Carden on the ropes right now.
That was so wimpy. We're completely in the tank. Why didn't you just say that out loud?
Well, I didn't want to say that. I just asked him the question. I give you the leading question. Do you have that Will Carden on the ropes or not?
Well, it's been interesting watching his ads, and we'll be up this Wednesday with our first ads. We've not been on the air yet at all, but we will be on Wednesday. So I'm not telling you I'm going to be shooting the healthcare law or anything like that, but. But anyway, you'll see some of our ads. But the one that he has up right now, trying to paint me right there with President Obama, Flake and Obama, two peas in a pod kind of thing. He couldn't find a picture of us together. And so he photoshopped one. He took a conservative press conference that was a conservative press conference with some of my conservative colleagues. He removed one of them, the one that was at the podium, and put President Obama in, and has me in the background.
He photoshopped?
He photoshopped.
Well, that explains this picture I just got of you and Hitler. I guess that's not true either.
I think I was there at the signing of the Treaty of Versailles a while ago. It's
photoshopping the pictures. Holy cow! Well,
there are, and you can use Photoshop obviously to remove a blemish or do this kind of thing, but to actually take an event that never happened by putting somebody in it and then putting it off as reality. Then that shows a bit of desperation.
Well, I don't know.
We need to do that for the program.
We really should. Yeah, we'll sit around and we'll figure out which one of us is the blemish.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Photoshop him out. Well, I wonder how much I'm just wondering how much it costs to have somebody photo. Was it a good Photoshop? I haven't seen it.
I'm looking at it right now. It's horrible.
Is it?
It's absolutely horrible.
How much would you pay for that?
Free?
Right. Really?
Yeah.
So
this is probably someone's assignment from their first Photoshop class.
So you wouldn't need to mortgage your own house in order to do it.
But the last ad that he put out on the internet, this hasn't been on TV yet, but it has. He wanted to portray Flake, friend of lobbyists, somehow in Washington, despite the fact that Washingtonian ranks members of Congress as to their, their whether they're liked by lobbyists or not. And I'm usually at the very top of that list as the most hated among lobbyists, earmark lobbyists in particular.
I was going to say next thing he'll be saying friend of earmarking.
But there's a picture there, and the caption said Flake hobnobbing with lobbyists, and there are two people that I'm talking with. It turns out those two people are John Sullivan, a congressman from Oklahoma, and Bill Schuster, congressman from Pennsylvania.
I love it.
So he misidentified two members of Congress as lobbyists.
Well, that's how you're known, Jeff, is a real hobnobber. On the 14th on K Street.
But that was pointed out that they actually issued a statement saying we don't exactly appreciate being called lobbyists.
I've been to some of your parties, and they're just boring as hell. Anyway, listen, we're gonna pause for a second. I want to talk a little about this thing. Eric Holder comes out on Fast and Furious, and he is so determined to get to the bottom of this that he won't appoint an independent prosecutor or an investigator, but he is going to thoroughly investigate this thing. To which Daryl Issa comes along and says, "Well, we'll just get together. Our response now is that we're fed up. We're going to get together and figure out how to hold you in contempt of Congress." So I'm going to talk about that, and then the leaks too. We got to get into, because John McCain is just chomping mad, and he's actually accusing the president of and his people of
subtly,
leaking.
but yes.
Yeah, and the president, enough for the president to come out and say he's personally offended, which, that I'm sure John McCain is just going to be really upset about the president being personally offended. But anyway, all comments on that, too, in a moment with our guest, Jeff Flake, who's joining us on KFYI. Hey, it's 8:22 on the program here. Congressman Jeff Flake is in the studios with us, and I can't let you get out of here before asking you about two things. First of all, news out today that over on the Oversight Committee, this is Congressman Daryl Issa, and he's not been amused with this Fast and Furious thing and the response. He's been demanding all kinds of documentations from the Justice Department. I believe the congressman. I believe the Justice Department's just stonewalling and lying to him. He can't get the documents. So, with all this pressure, Eric Holder steps out on Friday, says, well, we'll have an investigation of this thing. Not a special investigator. Well, we'll do our own investigating, and we'll figure it out. And so I didn't take Issa a couple of days. I guess he responded by saying, that's all right. We're going to have the committee hearings to figure out how to hold the Attorney General in contempt of Congress. What do you make of the whole thing? And what does it mean if they hold him in contempt of Congress?
Well, they've been trying. That committee's been trying for a long, long time to get the answers to their questions, and they haven't gotten them. The most compelling testimony I thought during that time was Jason Chaffetz from Utah asked, about another email that referenced Fast and Furious, I believe, and said, shouldn't this have been dispositive? Shouldn't you have seen this and known that this was going on? And he came back, and the wording he used, he said, no, we have superior knowledge, which is a technical term, but it just sounded
like that,
pretty apropos to the way they've treated that committee. And so I hope that Congressman Issa moves ahead, and I think that there are grounds to bring up these contempt charges.
Well, if you hold the Attorney General, though, in contempt of Congress,
who serves at the pleasure of the president?
I mean,
can you do that?
What does it mean?
Well, you may finally get him to come and actually answer the questions. That's what it probably means. And so, but nothing they've done so far works. So I think that they ought to move ahead. This is a serious investigation. Obviously, this is a serious program.
Yeah.
So
So, but it seems to me that with all the stonewalling, there's something to hide.
Yes. Oh, you bet. I think the notion that this was just known by a few people at low level is just doesn't make sense.
Now, meanwhile, we got this other little scandal that appears to be, I don't know, you tell, everybody can decide whether or not it's a scandal. Here's something I shouldn't know. I mean, I'm happy he did it, but apparently the President of the United States authorized whatever powers within our government are capable of doing this to implant the worst, most virulent computer virus ever in the history of the world, this Stuxnet virus, into the Iranian computer systems and screwed up their production of uranium. Good for him. Now, I'm not supposed to know that. You're not. I don't think you're supposed to know it, and none of us are, but yet we know it because it got leaked.
Right.
And people like John McCain are running around saying they're leaking this stuff over there just to make the president look good.
Yeah. Well, the timing is suspicious, put it that way. And yeah, this is some of the most effective measures that we can take with Iran are these kind of measures. And the notion that this just broadcasts out and now anything in the future that we do will be compromised from what was leaked. This is terrible.
And the president's responded. He's been proactive. We didn't do this. We wouldn't do this. Now, I don't know how many if you in the audience saw Axelrod trying to step aside. I've never seen such fancy footwork in my life with Fast and Furious and the leaks, especially the leaks. The guy, I don't know what he said after I heard him say it, but the president said he's personally offended by all of this.
Well, if you are, then find out who in your administration leaked it. It was from the administration. We know that. It's self-evident. So let's find out who it is.
Somebody brought, now, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm working on now, just bits and pieces I heard over the weekend, but somebody brought a highfalutin reporter from somewhere. They won't say who it is, but it sounds like, New York Times or CBS level reporters into some secret security briefings to let them sit there and listen to what's being said. I mean, did you hear that?
No, I haven't heard that, but going back to what you said about the president being personally offended, and Jeff, what you just said is it's pretty obvious where the leaks came from. Notice not one time over the weekend did he say no. Did he absolutely qualify? This did not happen at this level, at the administration level. So
no, when somebody stands up and just states that they're personally offended and everything else, you can count on something underneath happening.
Did you hear anything about the reporter? Because I just heard some little bit and piece of it. I don't even know.
No, but that's part of a broader pattern of doing a lot of this for show, and I think some of the SEALs expressed later on. Of those who have left the service, the way that the president talked about the operation to kill bin Laden. That, hey, this was a great operation. I commend the president for making the decision to go ahead. I think all of us do. But then to just keep talking about it and in ways that might compromise future missions, if people know too much about them, it just seems as if the president is worried more about PR than actual effectiveness.
Well, talk about people knowing too much about them. Some of these guys from SEAL Team 6 were offered up to a movie director to say, hey, we'll allow them to meet with you, meaning that they will be able to know who you are. That isn't the whole point of being a Navy SEAL in operations.
You don't want them to know.
To Barry's point, it's just across the board. A lot of the activities there seem geared toward PR and not toward actual effectiveness.
Can he get reelected based on the fact that the public sector is fine? Excuse me, the private sector is fine, and I killed bin Laden. Can he get reelected on that? Aren't we past that at this point? Well, let me.
Congressman, what do you think? Oh, seriously.
No, I think things for Republicans look good this week. They look better than last week and better than the week before.
I want to ask you, we're running short on time. I want to ask you your opinion on something. The Washington Times is out today. They've done a survey of conservatives all over the country, and emerging as the top choice from the Washington Times is Marco Rubio, top choice VP for Mitt Romney. Marco Rubio with let's see who came in second. Chris Christie came in second. What do you think?
Well, I think it ought to be John Kyle. That's what I would like to see. But if not Kyle, I think that the nominee Romney will likely go safer than that, and safer is somebody like Rob Portman.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been saying that for months is a likely possibility, and I still think that's the case, particularly given the events of the last month. This looks as if the economy stays somewhat where it is, and Romney runs a good race, then he can run a more safe race. He doesn't need to throw a Hail Mary or anything like that, and he'll win this thing.
All right. Listen, it's always good to have you on the air, even though I'm once again expressing my personal displeasure in not receiving not one penny in stimulus money for this program.
And this show is broke.
We send you people up there
We
to
are
do this
broke.
for us. I can't get a penny back, but it's always great to have you on the air. And when you come back, we'll be glad to have you on, but please bring a check, would you?
We brought croissants. I mean, what else do you want?
It's a start. Right. United States Congressman Jeff Flake joining us. Don't go away. Ann Coulter's next on KFYI.